You know, it strikes me that we live in a world absolutely drowning in information. It's everywhere.
It really is just constantly coming at you.
And figuring out what matters, what's, just noise, that feels like a constant battle.
A real tidal wave, isn't it? And the skill now isn't finding it.
Right.
It's what you do with it, how you process it.
Which brings us perfectly to what we're deep diving into today. Higher order, critical, and critical analytic thinking.
Mm-hmm. We've been looking at some really interesting work from educational psychology on this.
Yeah, stuff that really wrestles with these thinking skills. They're essential, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating, especially in this main review article we looked at,
From Educational Psychology Review.
that's the one. They point out this kind of puzzle. Everyone agrees this thinking is vital, super important.
Okay.
But when you try and nail down exactly what it is,
Uh.
well, the definitions get a bit varied.
Yeah. The abstract actually calls it conceptual murkiness.
That's a great phrase for it.
I thought so too. It's like we all feel it's important, but maybe researchers, educators are not all on the same page.
That seems to be the issue, yeah.
Yeah.
Slightly different understandings floating around.
So, okay, our mission for this deep dive then is to unpack these ideas, based on the sources.
Try and get a clearer picture of what these skills actually are.
And why they matter so much for dealing with all that information we mentioned. We're mostly drawing from that Educational Psychology Review special issue and the stuffed sites.
Yeah, and just to set expectations, we probably won't end up with the single perfect definition.
Right, it's more about exploring the nuances.
Exactly, seeing the different perspectives these experts bring.
Okay, so let's jump right in. We started with this idea of the information flood.
Mm-hmm.
And the main article's abstract, it really emphasizes why this matters, right? It says this constant information demands. Well, it demands more from all of us.
Yeah, students, teachers, citizens, everyone needs to think at a higher level, think critically, analytically.
It's not just about memorizing facts anymore, is it? Like we used to in school, maybe.
Not at all. I mean, you can look up almost any fact instantly now.
True.
So the real skill is evaluation. Can you judge if a source is credible?
Mm-hmm.
Can you spot the bias? Can you connect different bits of information logically?
Okay, those are the abilities that count.
That's what seems crucial today.
Which brings us right back to that definitional challenge you mentioned.
Right.
The abstract is pretty blunt. It says these terms, higher order, critical, analytic, they lack practical, precise definitions.
Yeah, that conceptual murkiness.
Yeah.
It's not just academic jargon, it's a real problem.
A fundamental issue they're trying to sort out.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because if you don't agree on what you're talking about, how do you study it effectively?
Or teach it.
Exactly. Or even know if someone's actually learned it. It's like trying to train for a sport where nobody agrees on the rules.
That sounds incredibly frustrating for researchers and teachers in this field.
I imagine it is.
So this special issue you mentioned, how did it try to tackle this fuzziness?
Well, the article explains it was a deliberate effort. They brought together researchers from all over the world, really.
Okay.
People deeply invested in understanding thinking, reasoning, how these things develop. But crucially, they came from different backgrounds.
Different perspectives,
Just-
different theories.
Exactly. The idea was to let these different viewpoints interact. A forum.
So like a summit for thinking research.
Kind of, yeah. The goal wasn't to force agreement on one definition.
More like comparing notes.
Precisely. Highlighting where they overlapped, where they diverged, to try and sketch a clearer map of this whole area.
A map through the murkiness. I like that analogy.
Yeah. And the final paper in that issue tries to synthesize it all, offer a sort of guide for people working in this field.
Okay, that sounds useful. Now let's zoom in on the terms themselves. Higher order, critical analytic. The title of that main article, On the Horizon, The Promise and Power of, it suggests they're connected, right? Not totally separate things.
That's a really good point. And yeah, that's part of the challenge. The sources definitely imply overlap, interconnectedness.
So less like three neat boxes.
And more like maybe a spectrum.
Huh?
Or related skills that interact in complicated ways.
Okay. Because we saw a whole range of titles in the references approaching this from different angles.
We did.
Like there was a model for understanding and expanding the scope of critical thinking. That sounds pretty structured.
It does. A paper like that is probably laying out a specific framework, identifying key parts like maybe analyzing arguments, evaluating evidence.
Making judgments, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Offering a structured way to grasp the skill.
And then there was our one title really leaning into our map idea. Here be dragons, mapping the realm of higher order, critical, and critical analytic thinking.
Yeah, yeah, that one definitely evokes exploring unknown territory.
Suggests they're trying to chart out the different aspects, maybe the tricky parts.
That's likely it. Surveying the landscape, maybe pointing out the areas we understand less well, the dragons.
We also saw the nature and development of critical analytic thinking, focusing on how it grows.
Probably looking at the cognitive processes involved, how they mature.
And critical thinking and its relation to strategic processing. That sounds like how we plan our thinking.
Sort of, yeah. Strategic processing is about how we consciously plan and execute our thinking to solve a problem or analyze something.
So connecting critical thinking to being deliberate about how you approach a task.
Exactly. Good critical thinkers probably use specific strategies consciously.
Then there were titles looking at specific contexts, like learning from multiple texts.
Right.
For our listeners, maybe researching different views online, that seems super relevant. You need specific skills for that, right? Synthesizing, spotting contradictions.
Absolutely. And another title mentioned problem and project-based learning environments.
Suggesting the type of critical thinking needed might shift depending on the situation.
That's a crucial point these titles raise. The skills for tackling multiple sources might differ from those needed for, say, designing a project.
Okay, so it's context dependent too.
It seems so. Problem solving might emphasize identifying issues, generating solutions, evaluating outcomes, different facets.
And what about that title, Valued Thinking in Education, Liberating the Narrative? That sounded a bit different.
Yeah, that one likely probes deeper, questioning maybe why we value certain types of thinking.
Like, are there cultural biases in what we consider good thinking?
Precisely. It might argue for a broader, more inclusive view of what counts as valuable intellectual work in schools.
Wow, okay, so just looking at the titles gives you a real sense of the complexity.
Definitely. Models, maps, development strategies, context, values.
It really hammers home why that conceptual murkiness is such a big deal. It's not simple.
Not at all. Which highlights the need for a view that kind of embraces all these different facets.
Now, the sources were also really clear on why this all matters so much today.
Oh yeah, very practical relevance.
We saw titles like 10 Competencies for the Science Misinformation Crisis. That just jumps right out.
It really does, especially now, with everything swirling around online about science topics.
You absolutely need skills to tell credible science from, well, junk.
For sure. That paper probably lists specific things people need to look for.
Then there was Educating Critical Thinkers, the role of epistemic cognition. Epistemic cognition. That sounds a bit academic.
It does, but the idea is pretty straightforward.
Exit.
It's basically how we understand knowledge itself.
Like how we know what we know.
Kind of. How knowledge is acquired, how certain it is, how we justify it.
Okay.
So that paper likely argues that critical thinking is tied up with understanding knowledge. If you don't get how science works, how evidence is gathered.
It's harder to judge a scientific claim critically.
Exactly. Makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Another really interesting one. Critical ignoring as a core competence for digital citizens. Critical ignoring.
Isn't that fascinating? In this digital age, it's not just about processing information.
It's about filtering.
Yeah. Knowing what not to pay attention to, what's irrelevant or unreliable or just designed to distract you.
A mental spam filter.
Basically, a cognitive self-defense, like you said earlier.
That's vital online. We also saw links to the workplace. Identifying critical 21st century skills for workplace success.
And 21st century skills. Learning for life in our times.
So for listeners thinking about careers or just navigating modern life, these skills are key.
Absolutely.
Right.
Employers want people who can think critically, solve problems, make good decisions. It's seen as fundamental now.
Not just for work, but for being an effective member of society, too.
Right. And it also raises questions about how we teach this stuff.
Ah, like that title. Learning 21st century skills requires 21st century teaching.
Exactly. Implying maybe traditional lectures aren't cutting it.
Suggests we need more active, maybe problem-based approaches.
That seems to be the direction. Methods that get students really grappling with complexity.
And finally, there were titles about assessment, like Assessing 21st Century Skills, and that broader 21st century skills one again.
Yeah, highlighting that. Figuring out how to measure these skills is also a big ongoing effort.
So it's clear these aren't just ivory tower concepts. They're seen as fundamental for thriving today.
Absolutely. Discerning truth, succeeding professionally, being an informed citizen, it all connects back.
The stakes feel pretty high.
They do. which makes getting clear on the concepts and how to teach them even more important.
Now, the sources did mention some key frameworks that have shaped this thinking. Bloom's taxonomy came up.
Ah, yes, Bloom's, a classic in education. Developed back in the 50s, revised later,
It categorizes thinking skills, right? From basic recall
up to higher levels like analysis, synthesis, evaluation. It's been hugely influential.
though maybe debated a bit too.
Oh, for sure. It's been discussed and refined over the years, but it provides that historical context for thinking about cognitive skills and learning.
We also saw Halperin's Thought and Knowledge, an introduction to critical thinking. Sound like a
Mm,
core text.
it really is. Diane Halperin's book is very comprehensive. Covers the skills, the dispositions, practical strategies.
So a good starting point for someone wanting to dive deeper.
Definitely. It's considered foundational by many in the critical thinking field.
And then Facioni's Delphi report, Critical Thinking, a statement of expert consensus.
Right, the Delphi report. That was a major effort to get experts from different fields to agree on a core definition.
For education and assessment purposes.
Exactly. It aimed to provide a common ground, a shared framework, and it's been widely used in developing curricula and tests.
So these works kind of laid the foundation for the current discussions we're seeing.
In many ways, yes, they're key milestones, providing frameworks that people now build on or react against.
Okay. And finally, that educational angle. Some titles really hit on the practical classroom challenges,
Mm,
like how to assess higher order thinking skills in your classroom. Assessment seems like a big hurdle.
it really is. Standardized tests often focus on recall, right? Lower level
Right.
stuff. Assessing critical thinking needs more complex methods, ways to see how students actually analyze, evaluate, create.
And there was that meta-analysis mentioned. Instructional interventions affecting critical thinking.
Right. Research looking at what teaching methods actually work would improve skills, but also the mindset, the disposition to think critically.
That sounds super important, finding out what makes a difference.
Definitely. Meta-analyses are great for synthesizing lots of studies to get a bigger picture.
We also saw that title, Critical Thinking. Why is it so hard to teach?
Ah, yeah. I think a lot of educators would resonate with that.
Why is it so hard?
Well, it's not just teaching rules. It's about fostering habits of mind, curiosity, questioning assumptions.
Things that take time and effort to develop.
Exactly. And supportive environment. It's complex.
And tying back to the digital age, a review of research exploring teacher preparation for the digital age.
Crucial. Teachers need to be equipped to help students navigate the online world critically.
Evaluate sources, understand algorithms, spot misinformation.
All of that. So teacher training needs to address this directly.
So it seems like everyone agrees these skills are vital, but there's still a lot of work going on to figure out how best to define them, teach them, and measure them.
That sums it up perfectly. And that Educational Psychology Review special issue, it really highlights that need for ongoing dialogue and collaboration
Trying to move past just arguing about definitions.
towards a more integrated practical understanding that can actually help learners.
Okay, so to wrap this up for you, our listener, the big takeaway from this deep dive is, well, these thinking skills, higher order, critical analytic, they're absolutely essential in today's world, no question.
Couldn't agree more. It's not optional anymore.
But the sources also really drive home this challenge. Defining these concepts clearly and consistently, that's still a work in progress in research and education.
Yeah, that conceptual murkiness persists. But that special issue we discussed represents a really valuable effort.
Bringing scholars together.
Yeah, from different perspectives, trying to navigate that landscape and find common ground, aiming for greater clarity.
It's like they're saying, okay, this is vital. Let's get on the same page about what this actually is and how we can foster it.
Exactly. A call for a more unified approach,
Uh,
ultimately for the benefit of students and society.
So here's something for you to chew on. Given all this complexity, the different angles on critical thinking we talked about, where in your life could you apply these skills more deliberately?
Think about your own information habits or problems you face.
Yeah, maybe when you're scrolling through news feeds, or making a big decision at work, or even just in online debates.
Where could that extra layer of analysis or evaluation or even critical ignoring make a difference?
Consider which specific approach might be most helpful for you, given the kind of information or challenges you deal with day to day. And hey, if you want to go deeper, checking out some of those referenced articles could be really insightful.
It's about taking these big ideas and seeing how they land in your own experience. What does thinking critically mean for you?
Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive. We really hope it's given you some food for thought.
Yeah, hope it was useful.
Until our next exploration, keep thinking critically.